Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another night of iRacing action here on the National Racing Network, where tonight it will be the Stars and Cars, the USFPRO Championships, coming to you from one of the world's great scenic road courses, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, Monterey, California. 2.2 miles. Alex Palou holds the track record here at a blisteringly fast 1 minute 8.4. My name is Chris Graham, joined in the booth as always by Mr. Patrick Byrne and Mr. James Watson. Qualifications getting ready to roll out onto the course, but first we will come to Mr. Watson here. And James, I'll tell you what here is we'll pick up Ted Burns as he's making his way out of pit lane and onto the racing circuit. This place is picturesque. It's pretty. This time of year, it is stunningly gorgeous and green, or at least it's going to be turning green soon. I don't know. It kind of has a little bit of everything that you want in a road course.
Pretty much, yeah. It's got a great variation of corners, a lot of elevation change. There's no real corner that's the same on this track. You really don't have a whole lot of time to breathe. You know, coming up here, you have the hardest corner in motorsports. No, not the corkscrew, that little annoying kink with that stupid sausage curve. And then the other hardest corner in all of motorsports, this beautiful monstrosity that can turn very bad if you're not being careful. So yeah, it's not a great track that's conducive to actual on-track action. It's more of one of those where you're just focused on racing the racetrack and just whatever happens.
Well, we'll take a look at the point standings here, or the championship standings, I should say. And Brian Molitor will be your points leader as Ted Burns has taken the green flag on his qualification run. 623 points the tally for Brian Molitor at the top of the board. Teddy B in second position at a 567. The law firm Alexander Wesley Hazelworth, Brian Labarge, and Darren Fahey complete your top five, as we are rapidly approaching the halfway point of 2024 Season 1. I'm not entirely sure how that happens, but we're a week into the new year, and we're halfway through the first season of the year.
You know, it's not often that I could date myself, but this track brings up one example where I can. I used to be part of an internet forum back on NeoSeeker.
Oh, buddy, hold up. Teddy Burns going around. James, just as you talked about it, on cue, Teddy B loops it out of the corkscrew and how dangerous this place can be. But go ahead, Bizzle. Continue with your old internet forum days. I don't know that I like the direction this is going, but continue.
But back when I was growing up, just barely getting to high school, I was part of the old NeoSeeker forums. This is before even Gran Turismo 5 came out. We would get on Gran Turismo 4, and it was open setup, open car, whatever you wanted to do. You would run a lap or two here at Laguna Seca, take a picture with your mobile phone or whatever you could get that you could upload to your computer, post your lap time on this forum, and that's how we used to do time trials back in the days. It might be the only example here on the National Race Network where I could date myself, but
I was going to say that is going way back. By the way, Carter Lundy setting a new quick time, 1 minute 17.207. That's among the quickest that we've seen. Brian Molitor's first lap, a 1:17.803. He was quickest in the practice session that ran just before this race. He was right down there in that 1:17 low twos as Teddy B successfully executing the corkscrew this time. I'll tell you what though, James, you do it once, it can kind of make you a little hesitant the second time you go through.
Yeah, especially when this is the go lap where you really need to make use of the tires coming up to temp, because you have no real pace on that first lap with all the 90-degree-ish corners and the high-speed corners on this track, where you're not going to put up a good lap because of the lack of temperature and grip in those front tires. If you screw up your second lap, you are screwed.
Alex Ellis putting up an absolute heater, 1:17.030. Everett Paddock second lap, going to be about a half second back of quick time. We'll pick up, let's see, Darren Fahey is out on the racetrack, coming around to complete his second lap. Slides it a little bit wide, exiting turn number 10, down into the very tricky turn 11. It's tough to carry speed. That used to be a hairpin. It was a true first gear corner. Now one of those spots that can be a little bit difficult to try to get to carry the speed through there. As Fahey completes his run, he will move up into position at number 11. All of the cars that are still, actually, I think everybody has completed their qualification runs here. So we will let the clock expire. Carter Lundy will line up third on the grid here for tonight's race. Rod Eskew and Brian Labarge both getting laps in, but unfortunately, neither one will count.
I love watching old IMSA videos from this track, the old IMSA and kart videos, where turn one wasn't that hairpin. It was a 90-degree corner, and you went straight uphill to that wide left-hander that James is talking about with that curb that's the hardest corner on this track. Basically cut out the whole intersection, cut the first 4 or 5 corners out of this track. Basically just you made a left-hand turn and went straight up a hill into that left-hander, and there you were approaching through it 200 miles an hour.
As close to an oval as you could get, especially in those IMSA cars and the old Indy cars. That little kink was taken basically flat out in those cars. Absolutely terrifying watching those cars run through there.
That kink was sharpened after they reprofiled the course and added that whole intersection. That you used to come into that one from way wider out. It used to kind of just be like a big oval left-hand turn, almost like you'd see it maybe Daytona or Talladega as you approach that kink.
Getting the comment in here from Vilmacher before we get ready to head to the grid saying, let's go satellite racing. This is going to be an interesting field here at the front. Sam Carasala lining up on the outside of row number 2, Mobin Khan inside of row number 3. There are some guys that are very, very aggressive, even Brian Molitor and Carter Lundy for that matter. James, I kind of have this feeling that turn 1 could get very interesting because once you come out of that final corner, you get the green flag about right away, and it is an absolute blast down into the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, you have all that speed, all that momentum going downhill, and it's wide enough to where you could make it 3 or 4 wide if you're feeling dumb enough.
Dumb enough might be the operative word there. And the other one, this is a very tight front of the field. Top 8 cars only separated by about a half a second. If you're going to push, it almost feels like this is one of those races that we've seen over the last couple of seasons, Bizzle, where you have to push right from the drop of the green flag. It truly is a sprint race. They talk about the Daytona 24 being an endurance race that runs like a sprint. This is truly going to be a full-on push sprint race for these guys.
Yeah, I think in the IMSA calendar, Laguna Seca and Lime Rock are 2 of my favorite races to go and watch. Just because it might be a 2-hour, 40-minute race, and in terms of these guys running 24-hour races, that's really short. But the entire time you're on the button, you're wide open throttle, pushing every inch you can get. It's not only your lower guys, your dentists that are running off the courses in those ones. It's even your top teams that are running wide in the corners trying to get every inch of racing surface they possibly can.
Yeah, this one will be a full pace lap. So let's get the grid out of the way here so we can kind of give you a little bit of a ride along here, hopefully, as we get ready to kick things off. But starting on the pole will be the Dr. Dauber number 3 of Canada's Alex Ellis with a lap time of 1 minute 17.030. Lining up to his outside, a 10th and a half back, will be Brian Molitor. Row number 2 tonight will have Sim Racing Center number 2 of Canada's Carter Lundy, alongside of the Air Alaska number 10 of Sam Carasala. Row number 3, Mobin Khan, the other Dr. Dauber entry in the field here this evening. He will line up in position number 5 to his outside, the Downforce Racing number 1 of Ted Burns. Row number 4, the law firm Alexander Wesley Hazelworth lining up alongside of the TNT Racing entry of Everett Paddock. Row 5 will have another downforce car, this one belonging to Nicholas Daly, alongside of the Citizens Climate Lobby number 12 of Mike Holler. Row number 6, Darren Fahey out of Australia, and New York's West Shire in the Homestead Coffee number 13. Matthew Gracie inside of row number 7. To his outside will be the number 16 of Simon Fell. Brian Labarge and Rod Eskew will make up the final row of the grid. The NASA Meatball lining up alongside of the Philadelphia Flyers number 11. 16 cars in this split, 31 in total on the entry list. And let's take a look here and see who we're going to go on board with. Let's go on board with Alex Ellis, our pole sitter here for tonight's race. Get the camera tipped up a little bit here as Alex making his way down out of turn number 4. That's another one that is very tricky, almost flat out. Into the hairpin, it's going to lead you up the hill, and this is a big climb. Total of 8 stories. You're going to climb up this hill, trying to get some heat filled up into those tires. Let's slide on board. Let's see, we'll go here with Brian Molitor. He's on the outside. If you get out there into the dirty stuff, it is going to be an ugly ride, but you're still climbing up the hill. And what makes this one so tricky, James, is you kind of have to start braking right after the crest of the hill. So the car is still very unsettled, and you're going from potentially 5th gear all the way down to 2nd to make it through the corkscrew.
Yeah, and it's just kind of hard to really figure out your braking marker because you're going up such a crest. You have to deal with so many things you have to pay attention to.
That's the biggest thing I loved and missed about my VR setup, is that made that portion of the track so much easier but so much scarier. You knew when you crested the hill, slam on the brakes, and then you drop 5 stories. And in VR, it's a little nauseating, but these guys are getting ready to go under green. Out of the final corner, on the gas pedal, and away they go.
Green flag goes in the air. Oh, man, a little bit of a jumbled start here. Oh, man, James, you called it. 3 wide down towards turn number 1. Put 8 cars under a blanket towards the Andretti hairpin. Oh, got 4 wide on the entry there. My goodness.
Oh, Bubba's a big loser there.
Carter London gaining a spot. He's up into 2nd. Ted Burns, Brian Molitor battling side by side as they get down to turn number 4. Man, that is so tough where Ted is. The car just wants to push to the outside. Now everybody's going to have to get single file. Good passing opportunity, though, down here into turn 5. I guess that's technically turn 6, whatever. Make your way up the hill to turn 7. This is the first time through the Big Key. Oh, here comes Con. He's going to have the look on Molitor into the corkscrew.
Ooh, what a move.
Molitor wisely elects to back out of that one. And Rainy Corner, I don't think it's enough justice for the other good corners and great corners on this racetrack. Rainy is a tough corner because it takes a whole lot of huevos to keep the foot in it.
Yeah, and
Rainier. Back in the Gran Turismo 4 days, the whole trick for Rainy, no matter what car you were in, is you would lift off the gas for a split second, not touch the brakes, slam back on the gas pedal, and drive the whole corner super wide. The problem with iRacing in the real world is that's not the way you take the corner. It's one of the few corners in the world where you're not using the entirety of the racetrack, and that's what makes it very unique. You're not hitting the apex all the way on the inside, and you're not bringing the car all the way to the outside. You try and take the corner as straight as possible and just not touch either end of it. That's why it's always one of my favorite corners to drive.
And you have to be careful with it too, at least on iRacing, is because if you're just that little bit wide and you go on that exit curve, it kind of grabs hold of the right side of the car and just kind of forces you off the track. Like it like bottoms out on the curb and you just slide right off. It's almost impossible to keep from going off if you go a little bit too wide.
What a pass
you
by
see all
Mopin,
these
or by
drivers.
Molitor, excuse me, guys, into the corkscrew that time. That was absolutely ridiculous. Nicholas Daly battling back here with Sam Carasala and Alexander Wesley Hazelworth, who will slide back and pick you up that one as the race leaders behaving themselves, at least for now, at the front of the field.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real reason for them to start fighting right now. Like, draft isn't necessarily too much of a worry. Like, it doesn't play as much as we see on other tracks on the schedule, but it does play in a little bit, and they have lost it by a lot, almost 3 seconds off of the rear of Ted's car.
Let's go on board here with Mobin Khan. Follow him up the hill, trying to chase down Brian Molitor and into the corkscrew. The other part, James, that I really think this place does not get enough credit for is it is very, very technical. You have to be almost spot perfect every corner, every lap.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna pay and pay hard if you missed your braking point, your turning point, just that little bit. And like you see with the corkscrew, like with that onboard, you can see it is the epitome of a blind corner. Like, you're just turning the wheel and hoping that wherever you're parachuting out of the plane, that you land where you're supposed to, and you're just kind of guessing at that point.
That's one thing that was awesome about this track is when I was running the Forza Motorsports days, running the time trial leaderboards on there, is you would run a Nürburgring time trial, but you would build your car and your whole setup around here at Laguna Seca. It's got every type of corner that you'd see on the Nürburgring, which is every type of corner you'd ever expect to see on a racetrack. The only thing you'd do is if you had a 6-speed car, you'd build your car for the first 5 gears here at Laguna Seca, and then you would leave 6th gear, you would tune that at the Nürburgring just for that long straightaway. That is the only change you had to make between the two tracks. That is how, even though how short this track at Laguna Seca is, it has every type of corner. It is an incredibly diverse circuit for how short it is.
Trouble on the racetrack for Sam Carasala, falling out of a top 5 position. Right as we cut away to the replay here, we get an attempted pass for lead by Carter Lundy. Carasala just loops it out of the Andretti hairpin. Lundy not able to get the pass completed on Ellis. At least not yet, anyway. That part gets so sketchy. When you're in Carter Lundy's position and you're trying to figure out where that move is, if you are just a tick later on the brakes than the car in front of you, or even the lift into the kink, you're going to run the guy in front of you over.
Yeah, that's another corner that's actually kind of similar to the corkscrew, and one of the reasons why I consider it a heck of a lot more difficult than the corkscrew is that's another corner that you're actually just kind of guessing on the turning point. You know, because the very apex of the corner, it's dug down, so you can't quite see where you're pointing your nose until you're right there at the apex. And if you turn in just a little bit too early, you clobber that sausage curb, and it yeets you off into the sand. There is nothing you can do when you hit that curb. And so it's the biggest gut check on the track, because you can kind of mistime your turn-in on the corkscrew and be okay. You'd get a 1X, you have to give back a slowdown, but you're alright. You misjudge it here, you're getting shot way off of the track, and you probably have some significant wing damage from hitting that massive curb at full speed, wing first.
I'll tell you what, I am just enthralled watching the different lines these guys are running, and all about on the same lap pace too, which is absolutely crazy. You can see Carter Lundy really pushing it, a little bit wide on the corner exits. Ted Burns giving up a little bit of ground to the top too. Lundy again gonna look outside.
Lundy seems to be looking for the crossover, just can't seem to find it and gets hung out to dry out there on the outside. Ted Burns keeps trying to sneak it up on the inside on Lundy and kind of take that second spot away from him. Lundy's being very gutsy trying to get the lead, and Ted Burns trying to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and what's interesting to watch about that is the fact that it really isn't a great opportunity for the overtake. It's almost like Lundy would be better to try to make that move out of turn number 3, 4, whatever it is, the right-hander, and set the pass up for there instead of trying it into turn 1.
Yeah, because you just can't quite get the momentum off of the high side of the corner like what he needs to do. Like, it's so much longer of a travel distance that, oh boy, speaking of longer travel distance, the bit outside of the track limit right there. But yeah, like you'll see coming down into this corner, or you would if he was closer. But yeah, it just can't maintain the momentum. The car on the inside can just pull away so easy. Not enough of an advantage for the car on the outside to make.
I tell you what, that was an impressive corner there for Lundy through that Andretti hairpin. It's technically turns 2 and 3. Turn number 1 is kind of that little half kink on the front straightaway. It's my only gripe about this place is that's not really a turn if you're going to call it turn 1. But you run down into the 2-3 complex that is the Andretti hairpin. You can, if you get that corner right, you put up so much speed. Up into 3 is Lundy. He's going to have the look towards the top of the corkscrew.
Oh, outbreaks. Whoa.
Oh, a little bit of a lockup. Almost went full Zanardi.
Here comes Ted.
Burns.
Teddy B says, thank you very much.
Big moment there for Carter Lundy. Now he doesn't have one quick car to pass. He's got 2 to get past. A little bit of a wiggle there out of the final corner for Ted Burns, and he gives up a ton of ground to Alex Ellis down the front stretch and through 1.
Got the next pack making a tiny little bit of inroads with all that. They cut about 4/10 or so off of their lead. They're going to need a lot crazier and a lot more battling, though, if they're going to make this up.
Yeah, there's 4th, 5th, and 6th. Brian Molitor, Movin Khan, and Alexander Wesley Hazelworth. Another few seconds back, Nicholas Staley, Everett Paddock in 7th and 8th. Darren Fahey, Mike Collar, and Sam Carasala all running about 13 seconds back of the race leaders. Tough break for Carasala. He was up inside the top 5 at the start of this race, had a spin out of turn number 3, and fell well to the back. Made up a bunch of ground, though. He's back up into position number 11.
Whoa.
Oh, I was going to say, right as we go off him, Carasala makes the big dive on Holler into the corkscrew. Puts himself back up in position number 10.
Yeah, the rate he's going might get by Fahey, but that's a long way to get back on the rear of Everett.
Yeah, you're talking about, oh gosh, about 5.5 seconds at this point.
Oh, problems for Labarge. Big problems.
Yeah, Brian Labarge having it off track. Let's take a look at it here on the NRN replay. Into turn number 10. Oh, yeah, a little bit of curve. Car snaps around. Wow, great piece of evasive driving by Simon Fell.
Man, I couldn't quite make out the car behind him. It looks like they just net coated the rear wheel of Labarge's car and just absolutely killed the right rear suspension. That has been a rough last couple weeks for Brian.
Yeah, Labarge has to take the tow. He is on pit lane, but his race will be over. Alex Ellis opening up the gap on Ted Burns. As the field saw the cross flags last time by, we are halfway home here at Laguna Seca. Down to now 9 laps remaining. As Alex Ellis sets a new fastest lap, and he's down into the 116s. A 993 for Alex Ellis. Smoke him if you got him, and the worst part is it gained him almost nothing. Ted Burns, a 17.052. Carter Lundy, a 17.032 on the last lap.
Well, this is interesting because, look, he's able to keep a consistent couple car length gap to them. Like, I don't know what the difference is with the setup that Ted is running, but he's not able to stay up close to Ellis like Carter was. Like,
yeah, I was running Ted's setup into practice a little bit ago. It was very, very loose out of turn number 11. And the car just, there's almost was no way around it. The back end wants to step around as you put the power down. And you can see it a couple of times thus far in the race. You get that little bit of a shimmy out of the rear end of the car at Ted Burns. There it is again, exiting the corner. It's not much, but it's enough that Ellis can open the gap up, and then Burns is spending the entire rest of the lap closing that number back in.
yeah, like, honestly, you'd say what might be in their best interest is to let Carter back by and try to see if he can catch back up to him like he had been early on in the race. Because it's like, yeah, it's so counterintuitive to tell a race car driver, hey, let the car behind you pass. But if you want to battle for the win and you're not able to keep the gap, playing a little bit of the long game, let the car behind you back that you know was able to keep pace, let them catch back up, have them fight, and you never know, have them fight too much, take each other out, you end up with the win. But if you just stay right here and let that lead car by and pull away, well, you're just fighting for second when you could be fighting for first.
Well, and Bizzle, that theory gets a little bit interesting when you consider that it's a 37.83. Wow, there you go. James,
he listened to me. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was
how's that for commentary?
I was going to plug us into our Wednesday night broadcast now, where that's exactly what you're going to see in the rookie races, where there's 300 strength of fields that you're going to be running in on your old account, where it's really hard to tell a race car driver, let the car behind you by, and you'll pick up 2 positions. That's exactly what we're going to see. You let the guy behind you by that's racing too aggressively, he goes to make a pass from the guy in front of you, and all of a sudden they're wrecked, and you pass 2 cars for 1.
Yeah, that's the ultimate blue light special when it happens down there in the rookie races. But now the gap's at 1.6 seconds between Alex Ellis and Carter Lundy. And with only 7 laps to go,
yeah,
maybe a bit of an ass.
Too long to do this.
Well, and it also brings up the question of the points championship as well, because this is a monster SOF. There will not be a better chance to earn points this week. Ted Burns has not scored yet this week in the series. That's what has him back down there in the 4th position, sitting on 443 points. But Carter Lundy is back there at 9th on 315. If you give up the spot to Carter Lundy, are you hurting yourself potentially in the points championship? Because right now, Brian Molitor has a race scored this week, but he's running in the 4th position.
I'm not sure Carter Lundy is going to be running the full season. Yes, he's taking points away from you, but he's taking points away from the rest of the field. And if he doesn't run the full season, he's not really a threat for the championship.
Well, and that's a very similar thing for what we're seeing with Alex Ellis at the front. Yes, he's taking points off the board, but Lundy really goes wide out of sixth. He's taking points off the board, but it's kind of like nobody's getting them.
Yeah. Ellis, I'm not sure is running the full season. Lundy, I'm pretty sure is not running the full season. So at this point, it's a battle for third. So Ted Burns, if you're looking at the points championship for the full season long, Ted Burns is still in first place right now. It's kind of like if you watched the Macau Grand Prix and Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton was also running it.
That's exactly right.
For those Formula 3 guys, well, you're probably not going to win the race, but at the same time, for all the guys you're running for points with for the full season, sitting in third, you're still in first place. It's just those two guys in front are in a different class than you.
Pick up Sam Carasala as he makes a move around Simon Fell. Take a look here, down into the Andretti hairpin. Kind of a similar deal, just a little bit too much throttle. Second time tonight, Rod Eskew drives past a spinning race car. The second one of the night for Carasala has him back in position number 13. And right now, you're seeing Ted Burns. He's trying to move on Carter Lundy. In fact, Lundy just kind of backing out of it as they get up the hill towards turn number 7. I wonder if there isn't a little bit of damage on Lundy's car. At least not anything that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I can't see anything either, really.
That's almost one of those, like Lundy said, okay, you gave me a shot at it. I couldn't do anything with it. So come back past me and let's go have the fight for second.
Yeah, plus I think Carter may have gone just a little bit wide there, which gave Ted the run to get by.
And you're not missing anything else throughout the field. The smallest gap is between Darren Fahey and Rod Eskew. That is sitting at 1.2 seconds right now. In fact, most of the field separated by 2 to 3 seconds or more. So we're going to hang out here with this battle. Oh,
whoa!
Man. Wow. Jazz hands, Carter Lundy. My goodness. As Burns slides on the racetrack. Ted Burns way wide at turn number 7. We'll get the replay on it.
And he just lost the podium, for now at any rate.
Lost the spot to Brian Molitor, that is his big championship battle. Molitor currently leading the point standings. There it is.
Oh, he did what I said.
Yep, catches the sausage curve, slides it way wide. I'll tell you what, the heck of a recovery.
Wow. 2 things I talked about that came to be. When does that happen?
Watson, I'm pretty sure that's the first time in 3 years.
The first one was Blind Squirrel Finds a Nut territory. I'm not so sure about the second one. That was a fantastic call, James. Burns comes around at turn 2.
My commentary is finally making sense. There goes neighborhood.
And it is a dry January, so I haven't I'm drinking a virgin gin and juice over here. I don't even know what to do with this.
What do you virgin gin and juice? What did you do? Just pour some orange juice or something in a cup? It's just orange juice. People eat that for breakfast.
It's cranberry, lime, and tonic.
The difference being is right now I'm hopped up on so much coldness and I can hear colors, so I guess that's the difference.
So I'm at a casino for a week. I forgot about dry January 1st.
So Ted Burns able to get past Brian Molitor, put himself back up onto the podium, but Molitor really giving chase through turn number 11 as we are down to 2 laps to go here at Laguna Seca. Alex Ellis is gone. 5.3 seconds the lead now over Carter Lundy. And it's another almost 2 seconds back to Ted Burns in third. go on board here with Brian Molitor. I'll tell you what, Carter Lundy got way wide out of turn number 5 that time, because these guys have started to close the gap. That's a better look. The nose cam way down there at the point of the nose on these cars. You can really see the elevation changes, and especially a little bit here, Bizzle, almost how these corners are banked as well.
Yeah, they're not banked so terribly much, but with this track being a very natural terrain road course, it provides to a lot of natural banking, especially with most of it being remanufactured in the 90s. They added a lot of banking to that interior section of the racetrack.
But down to the final lap. Burns not making up too much ground now on Lundy. Molitor sitting about 3 car lengths or so back of Burns. All 3 cars dipping the wheel off at the exit of turn number 6. Let's do the nose look here on Ted Burns one time through the corkscrew. God, that's so disorienting.
Try it in VR, man. You should come up to my place and put the VR headset on and go through there. It's nauseating.
Out of the final corner, twin checkers will go in the air, and Alex Ellis picks up the win at Laguna Seca. Carter Lundy going to lead the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place cars across the line, and Lundy very quickly dives to the pit lane. He's out of here. Ted Burns coming home 3rd. There's Alex Ellis getting the car off the racetrack. Let's take a look here. Let's pick up Wes Shire here. He will be the final car to cross the start-finish line. Have to wait for Wes in order to give you the finishing results. So now Wes Shire up and over the line. That will complete the field here. And let's take a look and show you your race results. Alex Ellis getting the win by 6.7 seconds over Carter Lundy. When's the last time we heard of 2nd place in this race losing by nearly 7 seconds? That's crazy. Ted Burns coming home 3rd, about 4/10 back, followed by Brian Molitor and Movin Khan to complete the top 5. 6 through 10 tonight, Nicholas Daly, Everett Paddock, Alexander, Wesley Hazelworth, Mike Holler, and Darren Fahey back through position number 10. 11 through 16 tonight, Rod Eskew, Sam Carasala, Matthew Gracie, Simon Fell, and Wes Shire all finishing on the lead lap. Brian Labarge, the only car out of the race. He will finish in the 16th position here this evening. So we'll get our victory lane interviews ready to fire up here. Let's see. Let's pick up our race winner here first. Now we'll bring him up into the booth with us, and let's talk to Mr. Alex Ellis, our race winner here tonight. Alex, congratulations on the win. The results are going to say you won by almost 7 seconds, but I don't think that tells the whole story of the night. It really was a great battle early on between you, Carter, and Ted.
Yeah, it really was. I knew that Carter had a little bit of a pace advantage on me. Honestly, my Q lap was as perfect of a lap as I could put together. So my entire focus through that first sequence when we were side by side a lot was to basically get him out of position as much as possible to try and keep Teddy with us, and also to try and get him to burn up his tires and his car as much as he could while I was trying to be mindful of mine. And it seemed to work out because the longer we went, I seemed to start to gain an advantage.
Yeah, it's almost like tire wear came into play a little bit, which is something that we don't hear a ton of in this car. But being able to, I guess, conserve a little bit out front, that really played into your advantage as the race went on.
Absolutely, and there was so much time spent defending that as soon as I got a big enough gap where I didn't have to defend, I was able to kind of put my head down and focus forward. And at that point, I was just trying to bang out as perfect of a lap after lap that I could.
Well, congratulations on the win tonight, Alex. We appreciate you coming out to run with the Indy Pro cars here on a very nice Thursday night. And before we let you go, make sure you do all those big sponsor plugs and shout-outs that you have here.
Yeah, for sure. So as always, Satellite Racing, such a good community, such a good support group, and so much fun to race with. So thanks to those guys. And then we have our great group of sponsors. We've got Dr. Dabber, we've got Nemesis Lab, Moradness, and Ellis Engineering. So yeah, thanks to everybody. It was a great night. And also, sorry, can't forget the most important one. I got my right-hand man tinkering on the setup, giving me a perfect car, Adam Crane, as well.
All right, brother. Well, thank you much. We appreciate you coming up to hang out with in the booth with us here for a couple of minutes. And now let's see. We'll talk to our runner-up finisher here next, Mr. Carter Lundy. And I'm really interested to hear what Carter has to say here as we drag him up into the booth with us, because it seemed like the car was really good. In fact, Alex even said you had a little bit of an outright pace advantage on him. Do you feel like you maybe just burned the stuff up a little bit trying to make that pass and do the battling early on?
Yeah, I think the following was really killing my tires at the start, along with racing so close, not just following, but we were battling really hard, trying to find different lines to get by and going side by side really hard, so that definitely killed the tires. And then we went side by side, I think, into the corkscrew one time, and Ted just got me, and then we were all pretty close on pace, so I couldn't get Ted when I wanted to. I had to get him back earlier if I wanted to track down Alex again. So that was a little unfortunate when Ted got by, and I knew lap by lap I was saying, okay, I have to get him this lap or else it's over. And then finally I sent it into the last corner, but it was too late, and Alex was able to pull away.
Yeah, it almost seemed like at one point Ted, excuse me, it almost seemed like Ted let you by, like you could go try to chase Alex down. And then you gave the spot back. At least that's what it looked like. Was there any of that going on inside the head for you at all? Or was that just a matter of he was able to get you, you got him back?
Well, it was a pretty big send to get him into the last corner. But after that, he let me go. He didn't fight me. And I tried for a few laps. I just couldn't make it work. We were so close on pace. And then I just, started making some mistakes. And Ted went back by. And then he made a big mistake. So it was just pretty sloppy from there on out.
All right, buddy. Well, congratulations on the podium here. And before we let you go, make sure you do all those sponsor plugs and thank yous.
Yep, thanks you guys for the broadcast. It's been a little while since I've been up in the booth talking with you guys, so it's good to be back. I'll hopefully make the rest of the races this season. And thanks to Nagisa and TWRS as usual.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you much. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us here for just a few minutes. And now we're going to bring up Mr. Ted Burns, our third place finisher here tonight. You had an interesting night, to say the least, but ultimately, from a points perspective, kind of mission accomplished. You finished ahead of Brian, and Carter is at least far enough back that I think this may turn out to be one of the better points nights for you this season.
Yeah, there were a lot of points on offer, so it was definitely in my mind trying to bring the car home where it did. I made a couple wrong guesses at the setup right at the last second, and anticipating that it would oversteer with the extensive usage on the track, and the car did the opposite, and I could not get it rotated. And so I think I had at best a third place car tonight, and so that was my goal, try and bring it home in third place. Tried for second, but just it wasn't consistent enough, and made a couple mistakes. So happy to bring home in third and salvage those points.
Yeah, it almost seemed like the car was a little bit twitchy out of the final corner. Was that part of those adjustments that you kind of felt just went the wrong way?
Yeah, especially coming out of the last corner, you're going down to first gear, so it's kind of a big shift, and you're hitting the exit curb, which will upset it a little bit. So it was always tough to get the power down there, and yeah, I was just struggling to get the car rotated and get the power down everywhere. So it was just trying to overdrive it a little bit, and that probably didn't help the issue at all. So it was definitely just a combination of the setup being a little bit off and not quite able to to feel super comfortable and getting the power down or following all that closely, getting the car rotated. So I think that was a big thing. I just couldn't get to power same time the other two guys. So they drove an amazing pace tonight. So it was hard to stick with them.
Well, and last question for you here. We saw a track temp of only 68 degrees and like 65 ambient. Is that what you were expecting going into the race, or were you thinking we might see something a little bit warmer?
Yeah, I mean, most of the sessions I've been in this week, whether they're race sessions or practice, have been around that temperature. I've seen a little bit warmer. Usually, I think the broadcast tends to be maybe a couple degrees warmer, and I think it may have been like in the 70s, but everything all week had been, low usage, and the most I'd practice in was medium, and so we got here and it was extensive, but with the cold track, and so it was kind of a real curveball, and we came out of qualifying, and I ended up spinning on my first lap. It messed up my second lap, and the balance was completely off, and so we were scratching our heads there, waiting a grid, trying to come up with some changes, and we just guessed the wrong way. I think so. It was definitely a tricky night. It kept us on our toes, but it's one of those weeks where had the third place car, got to bring home in third place, and fight for the championship.
Well, it was a very nice battle. We saw a lot of you with Alex, Carter, and Brian towards the end of the race. Ted, congratulations once again on the podium. And before we let you go here, do all those sponsor plugs and shout-outs.
Yeah, got to thank Downforce Racing. I put in a bit of work this week trying to get the car up to pace. We always struggle with the high downforce stuff, so I was happy to at least be up there, close to the guys up front. And thanks to you guys putting on an awesome broadcast each week, and everyone for coming out and driving the series. Awesome to see, 2 splits tonight. So thanks for everyone for coming out. And remember, I got the setups and track walkthroughs if you need them.
Yeah, I was taking full advantage of those throughout the last couple of days, Ted. So thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us here in the booth. And as we'll go back to the live scenic looks around WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Almost called it the wrong place. Man, I'll tell you what, we got a kind of an interesting show here tonight, Bizzle. I was not expecting Alex Ellis to just absolutely run away and hide late in this race.
Yeah, he absolutely just dominated this one. Just kind of ran away with it and went. As soon as Lundy and Burns started fighting with each other, it was pretty much game over. He just kept himself in the zone, hit all his marks, and did what he had to do.
Yeah, and Bizzle, I think the words that Carter used was sloppy, and I would say that maybe a little bit unexpected out of those guys. That's not something we're used to seeing, kind of uncharacteristic to see the mistakes out of Carter Lundy and Ted Burns tonight.
I mean, I was not expecting Ted Burns to just completely run wide there. I recovered it really well, got back in front of Molitor, but that very easily could have been a race over. I'm thankful for him that's a pretty wide runoff area, and he had plenty of room to chase that car out and save it how he needed to, but pretty much any other racing circuit, that's game over.
Yeah, that was really, really uncharacteristic to see a mistake like that out of Ted Burns. But now we're going to wrap up our broadcast excellence for the week. Coming up next week, we will have the iRacing Silver Crown Cup. They are going to head off to Homestead Miami Speedway. That race will air Monday night. We're back to the normal schedule after the holidays at 8 p.m. 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday night, the iRacing Sprint Car Cup heads to South Boston Speedway. That race will air at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday night, Bottom Split Madness will be coming to the National Racing Network. We were discussing it a little bit before the show. I will have a couple of cameras pointed at me. We'll have the sim up. We'll have the onboard view and all the overlays and stuff queued up and squared away for you before we kick off next week. Keep your eye out. I think we may do something like 8 to 9, maybe 8 to 10. We'll see how that goes. Get a couple of races in for you and give you all something to laugh at. And on a Thursday night, the Indy Pro 2000 Championship heads across the pond for the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Another track that is absolutely spectacular and will probably have very minimal participation, and I don't understand why. It's just silly. But you'll see it all next Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Patrick Byrne, James Watson, and everybody else here at the National Racing Network that makes these shows happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, and we will talk to you all soon. Have a great night, everybody.